Yes. So verse 8 was about also that Krishna is omniscient. He knows everything. And but knowing everything doesn't mean that but then he chooses not to get involved or not to interfere with our free will. That's what Krishna does. He doesn't interfere with our free will. So, and then we also talked about how some people are karmavad and some people are daivavad. So karmavad means they think that just by doing their duties, they will be successful. Some people think, no, everything is defined by higher authorities. Whereas uh, the right understanding is that we are somewhere in between. That we are karmavadis and daivavad. We do our duties and then we just depend on Krishna. So that's where our whole philosophy comes. Like even the Bhagavad Gita, it just talks about doing our duty. So it's a sense of duty that's involved in Bhagavad Gita. Those were the few things we did last. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Did we do something else too? Or did I cover everything? Okay, we covered everything. I wanted to show you. So verse 9, 10, and 11, they're so let's just read those through with three verses. I'll give a brief synopsis of those three verses, and then we'll go into the ninth verse. Or can I do? Let me just give it a second. No, it doesn't let me do that. Isopanishad. Okay, so let's just look at this. Okay, mantra 9. Andham tamah pravishyanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuyayavate tamo yayu vidyayam rata. Those who engage in the culture of nescient activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. Okay, so what I want you to pay attention to is the use of the word vidyam, avidyam, and vidyam. So here there is a mention of what vidya is and what avidya is. And then the next verse, 10, Anyadevahur vidyaya, anyadahur avidyaya, iti shushruma yena stad vichakshare. The wise have explained that one result is derived from culture of knowledge and that a different result is obtained from a culture of nescience. Again, use of word vidya and avidya. And then let's look at the next one. Vidyam cha yas tad vedo bhayam saha avidyayam virtyutva vidyam amritum ashrate. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death. So we see that there is the use of uh, vidya and avidya again and again. There are three verses that are going back and forth with uh, vidya and avidya. Okay, so just give me 1 second. What I wanted to do was I wanted to just put them all three together, if I could somehow. That was what I was thinking, and I didn't do that earlier. Just give me 1 minute. So yes, but then what I was saying is that these, even though the word usage is vidyam and avidyam, but then these three words, the meaning of these vidya and avidya is very different in each of these three verses, and that's what I would like to talk about briefly, and then we will jump into the um, the discussion on ninth. Just give me 1 second. I'm just pasting all these three verses together so that they're on the same page and we can read it simultaneously, and then it will be easier for you to understand it. Sorry, I should have done this earlier. I couldn't. I didn't. I could, but I didn't. Okay, so I have all three of them pasted in here.
YouTube video. Guys, today we have something very special planned for our customer's house right now. He has a 2015 Lamborghini Aventador to sell us, a 2005 Rolls Royce.
Okay. Oh, there was somebody. Let me go back to sharing. Okay, so I put all three of them together. So now if you see, there is Vidyam, there's a talk of a Vidya and Vidya, Vidya and Vidya, Vidya and Vidya. So now let's see what the relationship is of those three. Okay, so now I just wanted to walk you through this. Okay, so these meanings can be confusing. That is why it's good that we look at them, these three verses together, so that you understand what Vidya and Avidya are being talked about. So the ninth verse, Avidya, that is in ignorance, is being talked about is where there is an ignorant pursuit of sense gratification. Okay, so ignorant pursuit means like you have no clue what you're doing. Kind of, that's the position, right? And then Vidya in this verse, in the ninth verse, right, it's talking about knowledge for pursuing sense. So it's both is sense gratificatory, the Vidya and Vidya in ninth verse, but one is an ignorant Vidya, like it's Avidya, and the other is knowledge, but they both are in ignorance. Okay, so and then if you see this verse, it says those who are engaged in the culture of nescience activities. This is visible to you, right? It's not small. It's okay. Just being sure. You can read these verses?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's good. So yes, so it's talking about nescience. That's nescience means avidya. And then it's saying worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So the verse is telling us that being ignorant is bad, but then being knowledgeable is also bad. So now what is being referred to here? Because both of those knowledge are with regards to sense gratification. And I'll come into more details about this verse when we move forward in this today, but just wanted to give you that. So that is why it's saying that they both are bad. But then verse is engaging ourselves in a culture of knowledge. So that's the knowledge is knowledge for sense gratification. So that's the ninth verse. 10th one is the wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience. So now here the results are different. Here, in nine, both of them were in ignorance. One was deeper ignorance, one was not that deep, but both were ignorance. But in 10, it's saying their results can be different. So what it means is that the avidya being referred to in the verse 10 is a combination of both of these vidyas in 9. Avidya, so both of those avidya and vidya. So knowledge for pursuing sense gratification. So it's a combination of both of them being referred to avidya here, right? So whether even if you have knowledge, you are still pursuing for sense gratification, that is also considered as avidya in the 10th verse. But so that's one result of it. And the completely opposite result, different result is when you pursue knowledge for Krishna consciousness or spiritual knowledge. So that's the 10th verse. Now, in the 11th verse, it said that one can learn the process of nescience, that is avidya, and that of transcendental knowledge, that is vidya, side by side, can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So here now we are being told that there is knowledge and there is avidya and vidya, and when you know both of them simultaneously, you can get liberated from this material world. So then avidya being talked about here is not the avidya being talked about in the earlier way. It's not necessarily for sense gratification. Here the avidya is primarily about bodily maintenance. Okay, so basic knowledge: how to keep healthy, how to maintain social responsibility, how to earn a livelihood without too much disruption of your uh, like not getting too deep into sense gratification, right? So if somebody is understanding that, so with that one will be able to navigate through this ocean. So if you know about this ocean, right? So let's say you're in an ocean, middle of an ocean. If you know something about ocean, so where it's going to be turbulent, where it's deep and not, then you will be able to navigate it better. But nobody is asking us to jump deeper into that ocean. But people who are desirous of sense gratifications are the ones who have jumped deep into that ocean. So the 11th verse is referring to again, knowledge for bodily maintenance, and then vidya is knowledge for pursuing Krishna consciousness. And this is very interesting that the author is telling us that when you know them side by side, then you can enjoy the full blessings of immortality, or you can get liberated. So that's a very interesting way of putting it. And when we come to that verse, we will read it more and understand it more. But just for now, understand these three differences. Okay, that for the ninth verse, both avidya and vidya, they both are in sense gratification. One is ignorance, the other is knowledge of it. Right. So that's what it is. So we have to understand that we cannot understand Shastra just by knowing words, knowing the meaning of those words. For example, like we read the Bhagavad Gita. There, the word Atma can mean so many things. Atma can mean yourself. Atma can mean your soul. Atma can even refer to Krishna. That is Paramatma. So the word Atma has different meanings, right? So similarly, we have to be cautious that we not just go by the word, right? That, hey, okay, this word is being told to us as meaning this, so we'll use it in that context. No, text and context can be different. We need full picture of the context to understand the text. Right? To know text, you can use a dictionary, no problem. But for complete understanding, we need context. That is why we need purports by Prabhupada. We need self-realized souls to tell us. By ourselves, we cannot do it. Upanishads, I have told you this all many times. Upanishads were specifically written for jnanis, people who really love speculation. If you give them something very simple, it won't attract. They'll get bored. They want something complex in which they could use their intellectual capabilities. That is why Upanishads are sometimes also complex. They use multivalent words, multi-meaning words, because jnanis, the intellectuals, they do this in this kind of speculation. Okay, so excuse me. Yes, so this is the way to understand these three verses. Okay, and so I just explained it. So we'll just go in deeper into the ninth verse now. I'll take a pause and see if this was clear enough for you to not get confused when we talk of avidya and vidya. It worked out fine for everybody? Clear enough? Okay. Silence means acceptance. Thank you. That means it's clear to you, avidya and vidya. So now we'll dig deeper into verse 9. Let's go to verse 9. Let's look at verse 9. So, andham tamha pravishyanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yayu vidyayam rataha. Okay, those who engage in the culture of nescient activity shall enter into the darkest region of the earth. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. Okay. Now let's see Prabhupada's purport. Going back to my slide. Here's my slide. Here's my slide. Okay. So how Prabhupada has broken down this purport. He'll talk what vidya and avidya means in one paragraph. Then he'll give us the meaning of the word avidyam upasate. And then vidyayam rataha. He'll give an explanation. We'll break down the whole verse to us. And he'll explain what each thing means. So that's what Prabhupada does for us. And we are very grateful to Prabhupada for doing this. Okay. So first paragraph, what is avidya and vidya? Okay, so Prabhupada is explaining that. So let's read this, a comparative. So Prabhupada is telling us avidya is undoubtedly dangerous. But vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. This mantra of Sri Isopanishad is more applicable today than any time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the field of mass education. See, Prabhupada he's a self-realized soul. He's appreciating what deserves appreciation. He's saying, yes, we have advanced considerably in education. But then what has that advancement done to us? That people are more unhappy than ever because of stress placed on material advancement to the exclusion of the most important part of life, the spiritual aspect. So what we have done, what the current scenario of knowledge has done to us is that it has eliminated the spiritual aspect out of our lives. Okay? So this verse is telling us that those who worship that kind of vidya. Okay? So they're saying, right? Vidyayam rataha, engaged. They are engaged in that. And there's this verse, upasate, right? That's the verse upasate, which means worship. So those who worship vidya will enter into darkness. Or sorry, avidya, but then greater darkness will be given to one absorbed in the so-called knowledge. Right? And then Prabhupada will explain what this so-called knowledge is. Prabhupada is calling it somewhere in the, he calls it a godless, let's see, godless. Yeah, godless civilization. Right? So this is godless. And then he says, advancement of learning by a godless people is dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. Right? So Prabhupada is saying this is a godless civilization. And then this godless civilization directed towards a so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which masses of people are less educated. And Prabhupada put the word educated in apostrophe because in quotes, because if they are not engaging in godlessness, even though they might not be highly educated, might not have gone to full completed school even, but they still are better off than those people. That's why the reason Prabhupada has put this in quotes. So yes, so that's the godless that is being talked about. So it's a godless modern education. Right? And then Prabhupada uses two phrases. One is Maya Apaharta Jnana, which comes from 7:15 of the Bhagavad Gita. And then Prabhupada uses Vedvadarata. Vedvadarata. He uses these two verses and two phrases from verses in the Bhagavad Gita. We'll see those verses also. Right? So he's going to talk about it. So there are three kinds of people, or broad categories of people. Okay? And that's what are being talked about in this verse. Three categories. We'll go through this. Unfortunately, those people, they don't get an auspicious destination. And who are those three people? One are people who are atheistic materialists, godless materialists. Then they are religious materialists. And lastly are the Mayavadis, the monists. And Prabhupada talks of all three of them. Okay. So what has happened with this modern civilization is that more people are unhappy now. Because, as Prabhupada told us, people have started placing more stress on material advancement and they have started to exclude the spiritual aspect of their life. Right? And now somebody can ask us that, hey, happiness cannot be measured. How do you substantiate this statement that Prabhupada is saying here? Right? That this statement that, where is that? The first paragraph, right? That people are more unhappy. How do you say that statement? So yeah, okay, fine. But we can see that in comparison to past. If you just go back a couple of decades, suicide, depression, stress, all these were not that common. Right? Obviously, we cannot measure happiness by statistics, or we can do nowadays. There is a happiness index. I know Finland is a country that stands on top of it, and that's the number one country. India stands somewhere in hundreds or something like that. There is a happiness index, but obviously it's very vague. You cannot judge a country's happiness by the standards are very vague. I remember reading some places the youth are very happy in some countries, and some countries the old people are very happy. I'm sure the criteria is all messed up. But yeah, but you can surely look at the well-being of a society by looking at just four things, right? addiction, suicide, depression, and stress. These four things are a good indicator of any society and a good indicator of the happiness measure of that particular society. The Yes, so people might have become more comfortable physically, but they are also miserable. So you can call them comfortably miserable, those people, right? Early days, people just, would work, and farming was a major occupation. People would be out in the sun. Now we sit in air-conditioned offices throughout days, air-conditioned offices and houses. And that is a major source of disease. In this country, skin disorders are very common because of the lifestyle that we live here. Our skins go very dry and so forth, right? But then, so we have, and the reason is that we have continue to place more and more stress on material things, and spiritual is neglected. And that leads to an immense imbalance. Like Martin Luther King said, we have guided missiles, but unguided minds now, right? Our means have exceeded the ends that we wanted to attain. Our means have gone beyond that. And that's why Bhagavad Gita is so valuable. Our Vedic scripture is so valuable. Right? Bhagavad Gita, unfortunately, even in India, the Bhagavad Gita was misinterpreted to a great extent. When the independence fight was happening in India, there were many leaders who portrayed one of the existing parties at that time, the Indian National Congress, as an incarnation of Krishna, and then the Britishers as adharma. And then they said, oh yes, we have to, destroy them. And whoever joins this war for destroying the Britishers, they would be followers of Arjuna and Krishna. So that was a sort of an opportunistic interpretation of Gita, where the Gita was reduced from a universal spiritual book to a sectarian nationalist book, right? So the reason I'm giving you this example is that now it has become a cause of their fall down. Even though they're reading one of the purest books on the creation that has ever existed, or knowledge that they were gained was so pure, but what has led to them? Actually, they have become more materialistic by doing that. Right? So Mahatma Gandhi, he is the father of the nation, and he would say that I have based my movement on Bhagavad Gita, the non-violence movement. And I could never understand that thought process, because Bhagavad Gita is a book about war. It's in the middle of a war. Right? If you look at the background, Krishna wants Arjuna to fight a war. So how can it be a book about non-violence? Right? Yeah, it teaches us tolerance, but it teaches us tolerance for a higher purpose, not to gain independence of my country or to earn money. That was never the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. So that's what I meant. Vidya. So when being used for materialistic, sense gratificatory purposes, any knowledge can become avidya. So we are very lucky that we have Prabhupada's purports and translations to us, because we get the right meaning of the book of Bhagavad Gita and so many other books that Prabhupada has given us. Okay. So that's the difference between vidya and avidya. And saying avidyayam upasate. Avidyayam upasate. Yes, so let's see what avidyayam upasate is that meaning. Avidya nescience, upasate means worship. So yes. So what is avidyayam upasate? Who are worshipping nescience or ignorant. So forgetfulness of the Ishavasya principle that we have read earlier is avidya. Can somebody tell me in a short sentence or two, what is the Ishavasya principle?
Everything is controlled by the Lord. He's the provider of everything.
Okay. There was another part to it? Anybody remember? Ishavasya midam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jam. That's the part that Dipti just told us. Then there was another part. Ishavasya midam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjita magada kasya svidhanam. That whatever is our quota, we have all been assigned a quota. So yes. So yes, we have to know everything belongs to Krishna. But then, we also have to understand that I have an assigned quota, and so I should not go beyond that. So, what is the implication of being of this Ishavasya principle? Is that if God is the supreme and He is the controller of everything, that means the things in this world are not meant for my enjoyment because He is the controller, He is the enjoyer. But when I forget that concept, then what I become is whatever I can get, I will grab. So the immediate result of rejection of God is the enjoying mentality. In the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, one of the earlier verses, I think 8th or 9th verse, asatyam apratishthante jagatahur aparaspara sambhutan ki manne kama hetukam. That we are saying Krishna is telling us that the demonic people, what is this? They think that, jagat ahur anishwaram. There is no God in this creation. And this world is all about lust. Ki man mein kama hetu. The whole purpose of this creation is lust. Right? So what is the immediate result of rejection of Krishna, of God, is an enjoying mentality. Right? When somebody says there is no God, then the purpose of life becomes sense enjoyment. Right? And then there is this word worship being used here. So worship is not a literal way. It's not a literal meaning. You don't worship avidya by making deities or of that sort. No. It's by there's another phrase Prabhupada uses in here, is, if I could find it, is it profitless pursuit of sense gratification. Those who engage in the profitless pursuit of sense gratification are worshipping avidya according to Sri Isopanishad. So it's a profitless pursuit of sense gratification. Right? It's profitless. There is no actual pleasure. What are we enjoying? We're just enjoying the thought that we will enjoy. That's the only thing we are enjoying. There is no enjoyment when we are doing that activity. And then, even if just to get you a feel of worship, today's praise and the adulation offered to movie stars is bordering to worship. George Harrison, when he was at the peak of his career, he once used a towel in a hotel, and then the owner of the hotel, he cut the towel into a lot of pieces, and then he auctioned the towel, and everybody came and wanted to buy a piece of it. Very similar to the way we take remnants of Krishna, right? In the 11th canto, there is a word, right? Tayokt bhukta shragandha vasho zalankara charchita uchishta bhojanam dasam tava maya jayantite. Jayamate. So what the verse means, Uddhava is saying to Lord Krishna in 11th canto, that when we decorate ourselves by your remnants, which can be, fragrant oils, like gandha, fragrance, right? Or vasha, like garments, what you have worn, or with shrak. Shrak is garlands, gandha. And then uchishta bhojinam means food that you have tasted, remnants. That way we are able to conquer illusory energy. But when we use that same thought process in this material world, it becomes a source of misery for us. It becomes a source of binding for us, right? So I want to enjoy or not enjoy, but take grahan, the remnants of Krishna from Krishna, and that will lead to what? Tava Maya Jaye Mate. That by that I will conquer your illusory energy. Krishna, Uddhava is saying to Krishna. But in this material world, it's opposite. That by enjoying what is being in this material world being, then I become a slave to my ignorance and this material. So it's a very opposite. So it's a profitless pursuit, as Prabhupada is calling it. But nowadays we worship those who provide sense gratification, like the movie stars I referred to, right? And the worst part is somebody who is not able to provide us sense gratification, he is immediately removed from the pedestal. because there is no God, right? So if you have God as the center, you could still move around, like I think I gave an example that when a horse could be tied to a pole, he still has that option to kind of move within that range, but his center point still remains the pole. Similarly, if I keep Krishna as my center point, because I'm a neophyte devotee, I'm a beginner, I might still move around, but I'll still be around that pole itself, and that's a very good place to be in till we come to the level of prema bhakti and pure devotion practices. Right? I always feel very, not, I wouldn't say I would feel sad, but I always sometimes think that, movie stars in India, right? You all must be aware of this. When Rajesh Khanna, he was one of the movie stars, and Sakita Prabhu might not know him. And I don't know if you all know it, but yes, so he was a movie star. He was a very famous movie star in the 1970s. But I think he was in a very early age, I think in his early 30s, he was overtaken by another movie star, Amitabh Bachchan. He was another movie star who just came in and he was like the angry young man and he took over. And people, for Rajesh Khanna, people used to write letters with their own blood, right? Saying that we will love you forever. And the moment somebody better came, this guy was thrown off the pedestal, right? And he, you know, he was very remorseful about this, that his lovers just shunned him, threw him off. So that's the nature of this material world. This world is very ephemeral. So I don't pin my interest and my heart in this world, right? Because it's always going to break our heart, just like Rajesh Khanna's heart, right? Thrown from the height of his career into a darkness within a very short period of time. That's the irrational pursuit of sense gratification. When that's how this sense gratificatory world is. It's ruthless, right? Right. Yeah. So Upanishads are taking us from darkness to light. I went to a Kendriya Vidyalaya in India. They had this on the badge, and in the morning also used to sing Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, that take us from ignorance to darkness. Right? So that's the problem. Right? So okay, so now let's look at another part of the verse, which says Tato Bhuya Iva Te Tamo Yayu Vidyayam Rata. Let's look at the Vidyayam part. So they're saying worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called nisyan, not so-called knowledge. Okay. So what is so bad about modern education? Somebody can ask us. Right? So to be in ignorance is bad, for sure. That's the first part of this verse. So I cannot claim innocence for ignorance, right? If I did a mistake, I will be punished for it. I cannot go to the court and say, "Oh, I didn't know this rule existed." So to be in ignorance, but then the other part is to be in ignorance and then to claim I'm in knowledge. That's actually worse, right? So let's say I don't know a way. Okay, that's bad. I don't know a path. I don't know a route or something. But I don't know a route and I tell others that I know the route and come with me. That's actually worse. Right? These are the godless scientists you're referring to. Right? So that was a way referring to. So the scientists who don't believe in God, that's a very a very weird position to be in, because the whole world, the whole scenario in this world is pointing us towards a higher intelligence, right? The harmony in this world, the aesthetic beauty in this world, this all indicates to a designer. Right? But then to divorce God from this world and just focus on studying this world will make us happy. That's a very bad thought. Right? We're trying to enjoy the kingdom of God without God in it. Right? So 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 now I talked to you about one level who are ignorant. Okay, that's bad. But then there are people who don't know, and they're taking us in a wrong direction. They don't know the way, but they still say, "Oh, I know the way, come with me." But then there's a third level of people who condemn real knowledge, right? Like, for example, you know, they, how to say it? They condemn real knowledge. That means that, like, for example, yes, there are people like who are fanatics. They're fanatics in every religion. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, they're fanatics everywhere. It's not just that one religion specifically. There are always right-wing atheists, right? So they condemn real knowledge as ignorance, right? So this kind of education keeps people in ignorance, right? So so get my point, right? So there are people who are right-wing atheists who are condemning the real knowledge that's been given. So people who don't have knowledge, but they pretend to have knowledge. But then there are people who don't have knowledge. They are pretending to have knowledge, but then they're also pretending that the true knowledge is wrong, right? So you see those three grades: no knowledge, knowledge but saying that I have knowledge, knowledge, no knowledge but saying I have knowledge, and then people who are practicing the right knowledge, you telling them, oh, you are wrong. So that there are three levels to the ignorance that is being referred to here in this verse, right? To give you an example, think of AI, right? Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is picking up a lot nowadays. However, I was reading a article about how when you watch videos, how subtly these web series or anything, they make it very easy for you to binge watch a series. Binge watch means you watch the entire series one after the another episode, right? And how do they do that? They allow viewers to skip the end credits, the introduction, or the recap. They can remove all those things. There's an option. If you notice nowadays, I noticed that on Amazon. I have Amazon Prime on my phone, so I noticed that. So they have started creating these options that encourages us to binge watch TV series. They also have autoplay nowadays, right? So that's one way of looking at it. So the AI powered binge watching, binge markers, they are revolutionizing the way viewers are consuming content, right? Never again will you be stuck in a situation, oh, I have to see this intro again. Oh my God. I have to see the names of everybody again. Or you'll have to scroll through a menu for the next episode. No, they made it very easy for us. Right? Now you can easily skip these annoying bits. There's such a personalization technology happening. They have algorithms to do that, right? Uh, they can tag you with similar videos. That's very easy. Right? So that's one thing. Similarly, nowadays they have um, they have algorithms where the AI can identify your emotions when you're watching a video, such as happiness, sadness, anger. Right? That experience is collected. Okay. So when the scene, the data that you are watching, the data that you're consuming is combined with your emotional response, uh, captured by cognitive AI, then the platforms can recommend you different things based on your facial expressions, based on your body language, your speech pattern, or whatever it may be, right? So they can detect those subtle changes in your emotions to determine what is the best thing for you. So it's a kind of a personalization that's happening. So why am I giving you the example? There is a lot of intelligence, a lot of knowledge, but what are we using this knowledge for? For sense gratification purposes. We are pushing sense gratification further, right? That is why we are, at least, I feel I'm becoming dumber and dumber every day, because now, it's just that it's pushing me so much into ignorance. That is why we need spiritual knowledge. We need to have this constant spiritual input every day. That is why when we read what was the nectar of instruction, the eighth verse, right? Uh, um, what's the eighth verse? Anybody remembers? Uh, Anybody remembers? Nobody remembers? I'm missing it. Who's that? that it says that 24 hours you should be engaged in in spiritual life. The 24 hours Prabhupada explains in the purport that 24 hour means every day. Right? तन्नाम रूप चरितादि सुकीर्तनानु स्मर्ते क्रमेण रसान मनसे विनियोज्य तिष्ठान विजेत तनुरागी जनानुगामी कालम नाय दखिलम iti upadesha saram. Rupa Goswami telling you that kalam naye dakhilam iti upadesha saram, that the sara of all the upadesha is that kalam naye dakhilam, that you should be engaged in spiritual knowledge 24/7. But Prabhupada has told us this means every day. So every day you should have a set package to fulfill. Then you can let your mind go wild. At least as we all are neophytes, at least I'm neophyte, so I do that. I do my chanting, my reading, my hearing, and then I okay, fine, now I can go and do my office work and all that stuff, get into that. But if you don't have that, then this world is fully designed to suck us into ignorance, right? Or everything is fueling our sense gratificatory desires, right? People are being provided with more and more knowledge along with technological advance, more and more sense gratification knowledge. Nowadays, children have access to so many things that parents cannot control. So many things can be psychologically damaging for children. Not just for children, even old people are addicted. Because today's society thinks goal of life is sense gratification, and all advancement is meant for sense gratification. Right? The technology is not integrated into a holistic view. There's an endless titillation, shorts and reels. Right? So that's what is being referred to as the third level of ignorance that I was saying. Okay, so now let's come to before I go in, any thoughts or comments or questions? Everything clear? Okay, everything is clear. So now let's look at the last part, which is Prabhupada talk. Oh yes, I was mentioning to you there are two things Prabhupada brings out: Vedavadrata, and then he talks about Maya Parta Jnana. So Vedavadrata comes from two. It's in the second chapter. 2 point. What is it? 2.42. Yam imam pushpitam vacham. Yam imam pushpitam vacham. Here's that word. Verse. Yep, mena smaller. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha vedavadrataha partha nanyadastiti vadina. The second chapter, 42nd verse. And what is this Vedavadrata meaning? The supposed followers of Vedas. Another sort of interesting way of putting it. Yes, we are following the Vedas, but we are supposed followers of Vedas. And then there's another verse that gives us also a hint similar to this. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the 20th verse, Traividya mam soma pavput papa. Yageriштва swargatim pratyante. Punya shadhyam surendra lokam. Shnanti divyan divideva bhogan. So that's the 20th verse of, okay. So it's similar. I just wanted to bring these both two verses out. So this saying, those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious planet, heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. And the next verse tells us, but that when their piety is finished, they come back. When they have enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and their results of pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. So let's go back to the Vedvadrata, where it was. Yes, so Vedvadrata. So they are supposed followers. That's what Prabhupada is bringing it out. The reason Prabhupada is bringing it out because somebody can question us. Oh, these people are following the Vedas. How can you call them as ignorant? So Prabhupada is giving us that clarity that those people are just supposedly followers of Vedas. So now so earlier we talked about non-religious materialists, right? Remember? So non-religious materialists we are talking about. They are like scientists and they are atheists. But now we are talking about religious atheists, right? So if you remember, I told you about three categories of people in the beginning, right? There were uh, um, three people that are there. Uh, there was met, there was the Mayavadi, and I'm just trying to recapture what I had said. Mayavadi and godless materialists and religious materialists. So godless materialists, I just told you about those scientists and all that. Now I'm talking about religious materialists, people who follow the Vedas. But then Prabhupada is clearly telling us they're supposedly following. They're Vedavadarata, right? They're karma kandis, first of all. You all remember I told you what karma kandis are. They're just doing their duties for getting into the. They want to enjoy more in the heavenly planets, right? So they are just fine. So uh, they think that dharma is for arth kama. That's all. Moksha is not in their equation, right? So they have reduced religion to another form of materialism in this world. So there is no conception anything beyond material, right? And they are avipaschitaha. So the word avipaschitaha here, avipaschita means, let's use the meaning Prabhupada is telling us. Pravadanti, men with a poor fund of knowledge. So a poor fund of knowledge means they don't know how to discriminate what is right and wrong. And even if such people attain some enjoyment, that is also temporary. It will be lost, right? We read in the 9th chapter, 20th verse. Traividya mam svapata. So, and why are they avipaschita? Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, so even if someone gets into devotional service, like joining the ISKCON movement, the Krishna conscious movement, doing their daily japas and so forth, they also fall into that mode, Prabhuji, correct?
It depends on your intention, man.
Okay.
If your intention is, first of all, generally people don't come to ISKCON because Krishna doesn't give material benefits. That is the thing. Everybody knows that. Because Krishna, just like a father won't give his child chocolate because he knows the teeth will go bad. But an uncle will give chocolate to the child. Oh, uncle. So similarly, demigods will give material pleasures, material satisfaction or material enjoyment, but Krishna does not give that. So generally, people don't come to ISKCON for that purpose. And let me show you one verse. Please don't get scared if I show you. It comes in the 10th canto. I really like that verse. That was one of the first verses I read, and I memorized that verse. It was such a nice verse. I thought, oh wow, what a beautiful verse. 1088:8. Let's see if I got it right. Yes, 1088:8. So what Krishna is telling here, Yasya manu granami harisheta dhanam sane tato dhanam tyajanti yasya. So jana dukha dukhitam. The personality of Godhead said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress of another. So can you imagine, if I especially favor, if really Krishna favors somebody, he takes away everything that person is attached to. Because then that person is left nothing to connect to. Only Krishna is left for him in his life. So people don't come to Krishna for this purpose, for material satisfaction. However, for sure, there can be people who come with that thought process. So those will be considered as Vedvadrata. If they are just coming to looking for sense gratification. And there are many people, I used to live in Denver more than a decade ago. And I remember there was this guy, an old guy, probably. So he used to come to the temple because he was looking for a girl to get married. So he would come to the temple for that purpose. He would diligently come every Sunday. But it's Vedvadrata Partha. It's useless. It's actually worse than Vedva. He's just sense gratification. You can. So it depends on our intention.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you. Hare Krishna.
As long as we are sincere in our practice, we might not be very intelligent. We might not be doing our rounds very well. We might not be able to understand what we are reading. But if we are sincere, Krishna appreciates that and he accepts that of it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's a story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There was this Mahaprabhu was going through South India, and there he saw this person. He was holding a Bhagavad Gita upside down, and he was crying. And everybody was laughing. People in the temple were laughing at him. So Mahaprabhu went to him and asked him, "What are you doing? Why are you reading this book upside down?" He says, "Oh, I don't know how to read, but my guru told me go read Bhagavad Gita. And whenever I see the photo of Krishna as a charioteer of Arjun, I start crying because look at my God, how wonderful he is, that he becomes a charioteer for his devotee." So even though he didn't know how to read even, but he was a pure devotee. Mahaprabhu said, this is what devotion means. So it all boils down to our intention. And we can never fool Krishna. We can never cheat Krishna.
So what to say, Prabhuji, what to say about the devotees that were laughing at him?
So they were not devotees, Mataji. No, they were not devotees. Sorry, I meant when I said devotees, I mean there were some people in the temple. They're not devotees. They're not devotees. Because they don't understand, they don't know how to identify a devotee. So how can they be devotees? So they were no. So yeah. So we have to understand, Mataji, we cannot cheat Krishna. You can never cheat Krishna. The only person we cheat is ourselves by all the pretension, by wearing all the masks that I wear. I just cheat myself and nobody else. So yes, so those Vedvadrata people are the Abhīṣṭa that we talked about, and human form is very rare. We know that it is meant to be used for something eternal, to find something, to attain something eternal. But if I use it to attain something temporary, I'm depriving myself of the gift of human form. That is very unfortunate. You all must have heard of Visa Balaji. There's a temple in Hyderabad of Balaji where people go to get visas. And it seems as if the Lord is specializing in getting US visas. So it's a very poor interpretation. It's literally we have brought God down to such a cheap level that, oh no, here God gives me US visa. So that's a very unfortunate event. That is Abhīṣṭa. That is non-discrimination, useless. Like you are poor fund of knowledge. Prabhupada has tested in this way, right? There is one misinterpretation of Quran that says if you die in jihad, you will be awarded 72 beautiful girls in heaven eternally. So just imagine what a distorted version. But that is what is attracting people nowadays. Islam is a very beautiful religion. It teaches love of God. The first chapter of Islam is called Al-Fatiha. It talks of love of God. It talks of the relationship of God. The azan, if you hear the azan, they sing 5 times a day. That just talks about God is great. Allahu Akbar. That Allah, you're great. So God is great. They're just glorifying God. They're talking about their relationship with God. But there's a distorted version, a misinterpreted version where they're telling people that, if you die in jihad, you'll get beautiful girls in heaven. Come on. What a cheap way of bringing God into it. So that's the third kind of people I'm talking about. They're ignorant. They have no knowledge, but they're presenting that we have knowledge. But worse, they're misinterpreting the right knowledge. So that's the third worst thing. So thus people go into ignorance. Right? But when we use everything for Krishna's service, this whole world becomes beautiful. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, he says, Dukhalyam Shashvatam. But Prabodhananda Saraswati, Prabhupada tells this in one of the purports, in I think it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, Prabodhananda Saraswati, you all still here, right? Yes. Okay, sorry, I thought I lost you. Okay, so Prabodhananda Saraswati says in one of his writings that Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, that this whole world is a place of enjoyment. So how contradictory? People would think, can you just figure out what's right? Krishna is saying this and some of your devotees are saying this. No, but the meaning is that when we use this human form for exactly what it's meant to be used for, this world becomes beautiful for us. And that's the way devotee sees, right? That everything is wonderful. Right? Once a devotee was trying to start a conversation with Prabhupada and he was saying, oh, Prabhupada, today the weather is so good. And Prabhupada said, oh, everything is beautiful. Right? So devotees see everything as beautiful because they know the use of everything. But if we try to enjoy, exploit, or control this world, the same world becomes miserable. So we are being told, don't divorce material knowledge from spiritual knowledge. And we will come to the 11th verse where we are told, if you take your material knowledge, that is the basic material knowledge, when with spiritual knowledge, then you will be liberated. So that's Vedvad Rata part. Okay. So the word Rata, as you see here, the word Rata here, Rata, this word is Rata. Where is Rata? Vedvad Rata. Yeah. The Rata word here is also similar in Isopanishad, the words that we are reading, right? So where is that? Ishod 9. So it means engaged. So in 9 that we are reading is also Rata is there. Vidyayam Rata. So Vidyayam, it's been engaged. So yes, so that's the word being used here. So now one example of Vedvad Rata comes from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Can anybody think of that example, what I'm thinking about? It's in the 10th canto. It's about, I'll give you a hint. There are husband and wives involved in there.
It's about trust, Prabhuji?
About Vedvadrata, people who are just supposedly followers of Vedas. They don't have knowledge of Veda, but they're just pretending to be knowers of Vedas. And there's an example in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto. No one remembers? Give it a try, anybody? Give it a try. It's worth a try. No? Okay. It's about the Yogic Brahmins, right? You remember there is an episode where Krishna and Balram, they send their friends to get food. They say there are some Brahmins doing yajna nearby. Please go and get food from them. We are really hungry. And Krishna's friends go there, and those Brahmanas, they're performing fire sacrifices, chanting mantras and so on and so forth. They don't even look towards those children. But then Krishna says, go now ask for food to their wives. And those wives leave everything and they go to take food to Krishna. So even though they seemed that they were very intelligent, but they were Vedvadrata. Whereas the wives who were not seemingly intelligent were not Ved, they were actual knowers of Ved. And then lastly, Prabhupada brings out the phrase Maya Parta Jnana, which comes from the 7.15. Namam Dushkrinito Mudha Prapadyante Naradhama Maya Parta Jnana Asurim Bhavam Asrita. It's not intro. It's coming from 7.15. That's what Prabhupada is bringing out. Where Krishna is talking about 4. So Maya Apartha Jnana. That's where Prabhupada is bringing this out. So the whole purpose Prabhupada is bringing out different sections of scriptures is to prove to us what ignorance actually means. So Maya Apartha Jnana has been singled out because Isopanishad, this verse we are reading, is about knowledge, those who have knowledge. So Maya Apartha Jnana is word is used. That's why Prabhupada brings that word down instead of the 4 categories. But that knowledge is taking them to deeper darkness. So, and then Prabhupada in this verse, he's talking about in the Maya Apartha Jnana, class of men are self-made gods. So here Prabhupada is talking about the Mayavadis, right? The materialists. So Maya Apartha Jnana. These are those people who are Mayavadis. So I've mentioned to you the difference between Mayavadis and Brahmavadis in the past. Brahmavadis are the ones who are innocent. They don't know that Bhagavan exists. Like the 4 Kumaras. When they went to Vaikuntha, they see the Lord and they become personalists. Similarly, Sukadev Goswami was an impersonalist. He was a Brahmavadi. But when he goes to the forest, he hears Vyasadev's disciples singing that beautiful verse. Aho Bakiyam Stanakal Kutam Jigham Sayat Avyayam Apya Sadhvi. About glorifying Krishna taking Putna as his mother. And then he becomes a devotee, he becomes a personalist. So Mayavadis are what Prabhupada is talking about here. Right? So and why are they called Mayavadis? Because Mayavadis say everything is Maya. Even Bhagavan is Maya, they say. No, Avajananti ma mudha param bhava majatne. Avajananti ma mudha manushim tanu mashritam param bhava majananto mamavya manuttamam. So Krishna tells us in the 9th chapter that Avajanti Mamudha, they don't know me. Manushim Tanum Ashritam. They think that I have become a human being. So they think that I am also in Maya. And so what happens for them? Moghasha, Mogh Karmana, Mogh Jnana Vishetasa. Everything becomes illusion. So these Mayavadis, they give a very disastrous understanding of Vedic knowledge. Right? So like for example, many years ago, I heard that there was an interpretation that, Krishna is black, and black is a sign of ignorance. So we have to go beyond Krishna, where the light, to the light, and the light is white in color. So that's the light we have to go to. So some people, even Mayavadis give that philosophy. So that's the misinterpretation. So they are actually the worst group of people, right? And the biggest problem with Mayavadis is that they think that they already know and they don't need to know anymore. That is why their knowledge is in ignorance. Let's see, I covered everything, right? I think. Okay, 15 to 42 we discussed, 17, 7:15 we discussed. Okay, yes, we have been through the purport. Yeah. Okay, this is the end here. Anything on anybody's mind that you want to bring out? No? Okay. If there are no questions, thank you very much. We'll get back.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Actually, I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu. Please.
So you mentioned earlier that Krishna takes away everything. It's implying that if Krishna is giving you shelter, he will take away everything. And but yet we see there are a lot of devotees who live opulently, living in
Yeah.
$1 million homes, and
Yeah.
so especially like for example in Virginia, like Loudoun County, okay, is like one of the wealthiest counties in all of US, and and there are devotees who live here in like
Yeah.
$1 million homes. So does that mean Krishna hasn't given them shelter if if they're living so opulently, which might be an indication that Krishna hasn't taken away everything? So how do we understand that?
Prabhu, I mentioned when I was referring to that, I mentioned that Krishna takes away whatever we are attached to. However, Krishna does not take away things that you are using in Krishna's service. And I'm not saying he will not. He can do whatever he wants to. But if you're using it in Krishna's service, you're not attached to it. So you're already thinking it is Krishna's. But when he wants to give mercy, like for example, look at Prabhupada, right? Prabhupada, after taking the message from his spiritual master, he said, I will create my business, I'll become a millionaire, I'll use all my money for Krishna's service. But what did Krishna do? His business failed, right? Nothing, he couldn't do anything about it. And he had to come to the level that, he had to fully depend on Krishna. So what Krishna does in what circumstance, we don't know. But he will, if he really is merciful on you and me, he will take away our attachments. That's the meaning of that verse I referred to. So when he's saying that, yes, I'll take away your, swajana, your everything, it means that because you're attached to it, that's the reason I'll take it away from. Just imagine, Krishna didn't want Prabhupada to be a billionaire in business, but he made him probably a billionaire when he came to US. 108 centers, so many gurukulas and farm communities and millions of thousands of devotees all over the world. Prabhupada is probably one of the richest man living at that time. So what the verse means that we read, 10th canto, is that Krishna will take away our attachments if he wants to show us his mercy. And now those attachments can be different for you, can be different for me. Devotees living in $1 million homes, they are using that as Krishna's temple. They are not attached to it. So why would Krishna want to unnecessarily disturb? He'll say, yeah, you do your bhakti. But if he sees that you are becoming too attached to it, and on the same side you're trying to do bhakti also, then Krishna will say, Ye bada murkha. This is a very stupid person. I am giving him my mercy, and you want to still get engaged in this material life? Then I'll take it. So it's to be understood that, first of all, Krishna can take away whatever he wants from anyone. No control. I have no control on it. However, Krishna also knows what I am using for his service and what I am attached to, from because he sits deep within my heart. And accordingly, he can take things away, or he can even give me things. He can make me a millionaire tomorrow if he feels that Prem Dham can use this money wisely. So it's understand from that perspective too.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.